Okay, let's go on then. The next item.
All right, the next item is Governor Roundtable. So this is an opportunity for governors to share information, raise issues. So we'll just open it up.
Yeah, I see Alex hands up like, ooh, ooh, ooh.
I'm working off of very little sleep, but while I have the energy, I want to make sure I get all my points in. So the first thing I want to let you all know, because I'm working on it, few years back, we made a change regarding the at-large governors who were at one time elected to the Board of Governors by governors. And we made that change for all of the members to actually have a vote. I give that as a foundational piece that I will be bringing to the Board of Governors a proposal that the president-elect be elected by all of the members. It is for me, at least a concern I have that we have such a closed system that only 14 of us elect somebody who is supposed to be the spokesperson for all of the members. And yet you have 2 governors who are elected by all of the members. But I'm giving you that heads up because this would be a bylaw change. So there will be 2 opportunities to have that conversation or other conversations associated with that. Of course, given the timing I'm talking about, this will not affect the election of the next president-elect. So that's the first thing. The second thing well, it's a positive note. So as we know, this afternoon, a number of us will be going to the King County Bar Association's annual MLK luncheon. But I want to share with all of you that I will be the homilist at St. Therese Church for King Sunday. And I will send information to Tara and Shelley because you can either attend in person. There's a noon mass. There's an 8:30 mass, and I will be there, but Lord. But also one can go online and actually see that mass as well, either on Sunday or later on. So I just wanted to share that with you. It is an honor to me to be asked to deliver this year's message. This won't be my first time, but it is still an honor, especially given the state of the country at this time.
Thank you, Alec. Hands up from anybody else? Oh, Brent.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I want to start by just saying thank you to Seattle University School of Law, who invited me to be their commencement speaker at their December graduation. It was an extreme honor, and I talked on a multiple of things, including there's some religious, some pop culture, some references and quotes from Broadway musicals, rounding it out with a nice quote from the Book of Ruth. It hit on everything in just 7 short minutes. But I also want everyone to know one of the things that I do in this role and everywhere I go is volunteering and starting that connection with the newest graduates that are going to be coming into the fold. And so I, again, just very grateful for the invitation from Dean Verona and President Peñalver to welcome the newest graduates into the legal community. Second, I want to talk about being a liaison and how it can be so powerful when we as governors work with our committees, minority bar associations, all of the liaisonships, because when I took over the liaisonship with Q Law, I said to their president, Dana Savage, hey, you're talking about doing a retreat and you're trying to find someplace in South King County. And I said, I've got a great home that's perfect for small meeting type situations. And they took me up on it. And last Saturday, I was able to host the executive committee from Q Law for their retreat, which was really powerful to be part of and do a lot of listening, but also participate. And one thing that I got from that I wanted to share with everyone, in 40 years of leadership work, they did something I'd never done. It was called 248 all. And it's something that might work here, which is where you take an issue, we start off by numbering, and then you start with a group of 2. Then after 10 minutes, that becomes a group of 4, then a group of 8, and then back here. It was extremely powerful, especially when talking about some difficult issues, because it begins with just 2 people talking, and then it grows. And then all of a sudden, when you're back together, you realize how much was being shared across. And as a lot of people were talking about, especially COVID times, the burnout of those who tried to keep organizations going through, and the new people coming in and being distant because they didn't know everyone and have a chance to be together. So I might suggest that's something we look at in the future, because it was really, I mean, it takes time. I mean, each time gets their break, and it was a good hour commitment, but it was amazing. I want to talk about the late materials. For 2 years, I have told this board that I'm a dyslexic that needs time to review materials. And it hasn't changed. And I heard the words from the executive director about being nimble and enforcing. But I also understand that the executive director has worked with the staff to talk to all of the entities and organizations about what our schedule is, and given them the opportunity over the last 28 months to adjust and work with what's going on. I think that's been plenty of time. And if people don't want to change their schedules, then the answer is yes, we don't let them come to the meeting. I tracked my hours for the Bar Association and related entities and everything for 2022. I surpassed 2,100 hours. That's a full-time job. And fortunately, I am privileged to be my own boss. And my husband and I are perfectly happy with the amount of revenue we make for the time that I was able to dedicate to my clients. But that's a lot. And that wasn't every single 0.1. That was just the day-long meetings, the travel, the hour-long phone calls. And by the way, I do want to specifically call out Director Nevitt, General Counsel Shanklin, Sanjay Valkar, our Legislative Affairs Manager, and also Michael Cherry from the Practice of Law Board, who have taken extra steps in the last week to help me synthesize and understand what's going on with this meeting, so that way I could be prepared. I have not read everything. I couldn't get to it. But the things that I did skim through and see, I'm like, ooh, I want to ask questions. I need to know a little bit more about this, especially because I feel extremely guilty for the GR9 kerfuffle that we are in from September, because I'm the one who made the motion and made the advocacy of saying, you know what, I thought this was just purely pro forma. You know, it's here. This should just be approved. And come to find out that when we approved that action, we went into a whole hornet's nest of issues, of things that if we had actually received that the week before, I think we could have avoided that. And I would not have been the person that said so moved, thinking it was something like approving the minutes. It was far more complex than that. And so mistakes happen, and I own it. And so I'm very appreciative for the people who helped me in my service to the organization. But I also think that it's time that if entities and committees and groups don't respect what our time is and why it's needed, I have a legal right to accommodations and help. But it's not just about the time. If we didn't get done last night with dinner until 9:30. The day before, I was at Seattle University for the Alumni Board of Governors there, meeting with their people. So I didn't get home till almost 10. Is it really reasonable for me to ask, Sarah Nagowski to talk with me at 10 p.m. because of late materials that came in that I have questions with? I don't believe it is. But we're also running out of time because, whoops, here we are. And with the Legislative Affairs Manager, he made time yesterday for me for an hour in the morning saying, hey, I'm going to be leaving the office here at 3:30 to head up to Seattle to begin the evening activities. Can we connect anytime before that? And he was able to make it work. And again, it was an amazing conversation, clarified everything that I didn't understand. So I think that it's going to be tough, and no one's going to like to be told no. But I also don't think that it's necessarily fair for someone who's giving 2,100 hours to be asked to give even more. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Brent. What I would respond, though, I guess my concern is these people volunteer too, their time, and I know myself, it's incredibly. I'm hard to balance all this stuff, right? And so there's sometimes stuff falls through the cracks, and you get stuff in like oh crap, it's late. I better hurry up and get it in. So I get what you're saying, and I think we can be firmer, but I worry about being like a wall, no, and then causing them to say, well, then screw it, right? As well. Does that make sense? What I mean?
It does make sense, but then why is my time worth less? And that's the thing is, and again, when I have a legal right to be given an accommodation, and again, we've given 2 years, I've been asking for this, and I've not been pushing for guillotine rules, but it keeps happening. It keeps happening. And organizations could have said, gosh, you know what? Okay, the Board of Governors, this is when their deadlines are going to be. We're going to adjust our meeting and get things in time. And what I'm hearing is that they haven't made those adjustments. This isn't coming out of left field. This has been conveyed by all of the liaisons and staff people to the various entities saying, here's the deadlines for the Board of Governors. And they're not making any adjustments to work with us. So why, and again, and if it's something that's not time sensitive, why are we the ones who then are getting the short end of the stick? Again, and I'm all about it because it's not just me. We have, as we heard in your morning remarks this morning to the MBAs, we have an equity analysis that's to be done, a fiscal analysis, a legal analysis. If something is coming into this association 4 days before a meeting, how are we actually getting all of that work done and still pushing it through? It's not just about me. I make it about me in my speech, but there's a bigger picture. And it's not reasonable to say to Diana, and I sadly don't know our financial officer's name, but Diana and Tiffany and Julie and her team, that they're going to do all of the work that the Board of Governors has asked for, that we're going to see, and say, okay, just don't have anything on your calendar the week before a Board of Governors meeting, because we're going to anticipate that stuff is going to come in late, because it almost every meeting does. So I appreciate that there's a lot of volunteers that make the legal community work, but for where we are in the decision-making chain, I think that it's okay after 2 years of asking them to be respectful of our process to start putting the hammer down.
Okay. Thank you, Brent.
Mr. President, I wholeheartedly agree with Governor Williams-Ruth. The most powerful example he gave is the GR9 kerfuffle or imbroglio, whatever you want to call it. A cluster, kerfuffle. It's a big, he talked about staff time and all of that. The most important concern that I have is that when you put a late issue like that on the agenda, you deny the opportunity for people opposed to it to be able to have an opportunity to be heard. Audio auditorium patem, hear the other side. That is the biggest problem that I had with that issue. And he said he's taking responsibility. I'm taking responsibility because I'm if I'm not the mover of the motion, I think he may have seconded my motion. I feel bad when the other side was saying, we never had an opportunity to be heard. And I think that's, the reason why we put those conditions in place is for other people that have issues with it to have an opportunity to be heard. We deny them an opportunity to be heard when we make a decision based on a late material, and we said, okay, the staff would have done the work. It's not the staff's job to do our job for us. The reason why the Board of Governors is in place is for us to be able to make informed decisions that affect all our members, that affect the legal community in our state. We are failing in that duty when we summarily put an issue on the agenda and we look at the personality presenting it and we go, it must be in order. A judge is here to present it. So let's give it a thumbs up. There are other organizations, other issues, there are minority bar associations, there are, other organizations, regional bar associations that have issues to say on that rule that we may have neglected to have an opportunity. If we give them notice and they didn't come, then it's on them. But if we don't give them notice and we summarily decided on a late material and rule on it, it's on us. It's on us. I can get beyond that GR9. I still can't get beyond it. I received tons of emails on it. Why are we not heard about this? Why is this decision being made? The Prosecutors Association, Public Defenders Associations were sending emails to me complaining about it. The criminal bar were concerned about it. So those are some of the issues that really makes this point crystal clear, especially that GR9. I'm sorry, on behalf of myself and other people that moved that motion, I really apologize to the legal community for what we did then. And I hope that we can get it back. I'm concerned that we should start enforcing our own rule. If it's late, it's late. You got to wait. If you have to wait for 2 months and you do it a couple of times, it will be a lesson that we have to get this thing done. And most of the time when we say this thing is urgent, we got to get it done now. They are not urgent. They can survive for 2 months and we can get back to it and give other people opportunity to be heard on. So I don't want to put it on the staff. It's not the staff fault. In fact, I wouldn't have Paris honed for this. It's on us. It's on us. We're the one in charge that put this rule together. It's not the staff. Okay, so the staff get pressure from every side. Let's get this thing on the calendar. It's not them. It's not the executive director. It's not Paris. It's us. We're the one that make a decision based on the late material that we didn't give other people opportunity to be heard on this. Just because a judge comes to present an issue before us doesn't mean that that judge has taken into consideration all sides. I'm not talking about both sides, all sides of the issue, of the equation. So I didn't want to say a lot this morning, but thank you, Governor Williams-Ruth. I'm grateful.
Thanks, Francis.
Unless there's somebody else.
Okay, so next agenda. No, I'm just kidding.
I see how it is.
I'm just kidding. I bet.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be brief. A quick observation, then a question. My observation is to Governor Stevens. In the past, I have viewed the MLK homily that you've delivered. I look forward to viewing it again. I'll be on the East Coast. So I would not have a chance to attend, but I look forward to viewing that. My question to Governor Williams-Ruth, kind of an observation as well. It's a big deal to be able to serve as a commencement speaker for one of our law schools. So thank you for doing that. That's a significant act of ambassadorship on behalf of WSBA. Does your commencement speech exist online somewhere, and can I view it? Sounds good.
Thank you. Yes, 2 corrections, actually. I just was reminded it was the book of Esther, not the book of Ruth. And I forgot to give the shout out to Sarah Nagowski, because I knew I was going to be taking in a role that wasn't just me, but also potentially reflective of the organization. With her help, It was tightened down, especially once they told me I only got 5 to 7 minutes to talk. I don't think I've ever spoken for only 5 to 7 minutes. So it is on YouTube. If you just were to like Google Seattle University December commencement 2022, and I'm at like the 57-minute mark. I would also strongly recommend looking at the speaker before me, who was our student speaker. She was amazing. I mean, they were all great. I don't want to, in case Dean Verona or President Penniel are watching, they're great too. I just hear them more often. But our student speaker and again, the message that Sarah helped me craft was, I think, truly inspired. Is a great way for highlighting the best of what we can be.
Okay, we're past due, but okay, let's go on with Eric real quick. And
all right, I just wanted to make a comment here. Having heard from Mr. Arkinson this morning, and last in November, I know we voted on legislation regarding the Washington Business Corporations Act and whether to sponsor it, very similar situation. And I guess my question is, and the reason that I didn't support that last meeting was, I'm wondering why we, as the Board of Governors for the Washington State Bar Association, is taking a position on specific legislation. It seems to me that that is not our business. And I will tell you, the reason I think that is because for every piece of legislation that there is, there's always two sides, right? I can almost guarantee that there's somebody out there who thinks that the changes that were being proposed are going to hurt them and their clients in some way. They are also our members, and I'm wondering why the Bar Association Board of Governors is getting involved in that kind of micromanaging of a process for putting forth a recommendation for legislation. And I think what we saw here this morning with Mr. Arkinson is a very similar situation. Legislation that I wasn't here to vote on, that I know nothing about as a Board of Governor. I mean, I do criminal law. I don't have any idea what's happening in these other areas. Apparently is affecting people in ways that, although they might be nice for some people, maybe aren't as nice for everyone else. And so I guess being relatively new, I'm a little unsure as to why we are getting involved in that kind of a sponsorship situation in the first place. I mean, obviously, if it's a law that involves everybody in the same way as attorneys or members of the public, then maybe we should make a recommendation. But that's going to be almost impossible to do when we're talking about a piece of legislation specifically. So I just wanted to put that out there as the reason why last month, when I didn't know much about what we were voting on, I thought there would be a little bit more pushback, but apparently there wasn't. I don't know. Maybe everybody knew about the Washington Corporations Act, but I think that's too much detail for us to be getting into.
thank you, Eric. Alec.
So I was going to respond first to the discussion we were having regarding late materials. And what I would hope is we would have this fuller discussion at the executive committee meeting. And that includes kind of how did the wheels fall off? And what I mean by that is if you have a certain procedure and process, one of the things that often will happen is there will be supposedly an emergency. Supposedly, if we don't take action at this meeting, 2 months later is too late. The problem becomes if you're always doing that, soon there is no point to deadlines because there's always an emergency and waiting till the next time is too late. But that should probably be one of the hard questions, because the other fix is if it is not too late, then you automatically hold it over because everything isn't in and everything isn't and done right. But I think that's a conversation we need to have, and especially a conversation we need to have and how we either empower you, Sarah, or you, Dan, or Hunter as president to actually give the bad news. No, we're not taking this up. You were late. But that's where the rubber will meet the road, because there will be then the whole issue of people being highly exorcised, and it's just going to take some time to get people back in understanding we're going to actually have that discipline. As it relates to your comment just then regarding taking up legislation, I think that's a part of our work, especially our work when sections are doing the work and now come to us to allow them to step forward. But you will see in the March meeting, the Equity and Disparity Work Group will be talking about GR 12.2C with the idea that, yes, you could come down on the side of anything going to the legislature is anything we can't touch or ought not touch, maybe except for those things that we sponsor. But I think people do look to us for our leadership. I look to my colleagues, including you, on areas that I may not be as versed in. But so, for example, if it's a criminal law issue, for example, as a civil rights guy, qualified immunity is an issue I'm very, very concerned about, but would want to hear from those in the, I assume you're a defense attorney, or those who are prosecutors. And I just point that out, that all kinds of issues come before us, and the idea is, do we even allow our sections to speak at all? And if we do, then there's a discipline we should have, and a approach that we should have for them to justify either the section or the bar, however you want to call it, to weigh in, understanding that there are members of the legislature who look to us for guidance and support and analysis and those things. And I don't know that you can just be in only for a penny and not for a pound.
Okay,
So, those are my comments.
Alec,